Anybody who is surprised about Zach Bryan, a country music singer, using his art to call out ICE and power structures, and I'm talking about myself here too, because that did give me a pause. Like, Zach Bryan called out ICE? What, really? Because I have come to associate country music very differently. And this is a nod to the success of the post 9/11 country music rebranding. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I want to also add that at the time of making this video, I know that Zach Bryan has since kind of walked back a little bit to appease his MAGA fans, kind of saying it's about both sides and this, that. And but I'm still going to make this video because at this point it is bigger than just him. It is about the rebrand of country music post 9/11, what country music used to be, which is pretty left leaning, and then what it became after 9/11. Country music at its very roots has always been about sticking it to the man, as Jack Black would say. Of course, Jack Black was talking about rock music when in that movie School of Rock, but country music has always done that too. I mean, we're going back all the way to the 1940s. One of the most popular patriotic songs that we all sang in elementary school, "This land is your land, land is my land, this land was made for me and you." That was Woody Guthrie. Woody Guthrie was very much opposed to the war in Vietnam, and he had a guitar that said, "This machine unalives fascists." Like, then we get Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash wrote songs about wearing all black in order to stand up for the falsely imprisoned and the working class person who is not making enough money. And he also had a song, no, an entire album, excuse me, that was about the unfair treatment of indigenous peoples by the United States government. So, like, that was pretty liberal by today's standards. Loretta Lynn in 1972 wrote a song called "The Pill." We all know what that's about just by the title, right? Women's reproductive freedoms. And it actually did not even get produced until, or it didn't get published until 1975, because for 3 years it was too controversial. And even after it did, like, a lot of radio stations banned it because it was about a woman taking birth control. But women country music singers continued to be about female empowerment, about women standing up to abusive situations, and about women who are single moms and working and just trying to survive in an economy that is not supportive of single women and a world that is not supportive of women in general. I mean, country music women have always been speaking up against the patriarchy. And we can't forget Willie Nelson, who is still alive and well and actively rooting on behalf of the Democrats. And he had plenty of songs about, again, income inequality and sticking it to the quote unquote man. In 1986, Willie Nelson wrote, "Give us your tired, weak, and we will make them strong. Bring us your foreign songs, and we will sing along." You think Willie Nelson would not have gotten canceled by MAGA today if that came out? I'll take that back. He wouldn't have gotten canceled because MAGA would not be listening to country music any time before 2001. So what happened in 2001? 9/11, the Twin Towers, the terrorist attacks. So now, after 9/11, we have this rebranding of country music. And really, I think it was led the way by singers like Toby Keith, courtesy of the red, white, and blue, which was called American Anthem. And no, I'm sorry, it was called the Angry American. And so now we have all of these songs that are coming out around the early 2000s, post 9/11, that are about supporting the establishment, because the establishment is the soldiers who are going off to war in Iraq, and the police. There was all of this push for patriotism, and country music led the way in that. And this was seen in 2003 when the Dixie Chicks, now the Dixie Chicks, now today they're called the Chicks, but back then they were called the Dixie Chicks. And they had a song that their most famous song was about two women supporting each other in the face of domestic abuse and female empowerment. Okay. So it should really have come to the surprise of absolutely no one that they were left, right? That they were left leaning. And then they were abroad in London, and they made a statement that was their doom. They said that they were embarrassed to be from the same state as George Bush because they did not agree with the invasion of Iraq, because Iraq, like, was not a country that had anything to do with 9/11. And so a lot of people were against it. But it was a time where if you were against the decisions of the president, then it was very unpatriotic, at least if you were in the public eye. And so they were canceled. And they were canceled doing what historically, I mean, 10 years before, 20 years before, they were actually keeping with the spirit of country music. But I think what was so monumental about what happened with the Dixie Chicks is that it kind of solidified that rebrand. Social commentary was not a part of country music anymore. Now it was still about small town life and small town roots, but it became more associated with the political right because of that heavy emphasis on blind patriotism and blind support for authority, which was so much different than how country music got its start. So then this post 9/11 rebranding created this pipeline where we started to see emergences of pop country, first of all, and then bro country, which probably peaked around 2011, 2012, that era. And bro country was so far removed and still is. I maintain this. I love country music. Refuse to classify bro country as country music because it is so far removed from its country music roots. It's about expensive trucks and partying and disrespecting women and ultimately this male bravado that we call toxic masculinity, which is so different from the masculinity professed by the country heroes of old. And then that's probably why it comes as such a shock now, Zach Bryan, because we are not used to seeing male country music singers go back to social commentary. Male bravado, that it was the culture of country music in the years and decades following 9/11, did not leave room for social commentary. So even though Zach Bryan, I don't know if he's going to stick with it. I mean, he's kind of being flaky and wishy-washy and trying to appease both crowds, whatever. It's his career, it's his choice. But this is bigger than him. I think this really speaks to a music culture and maybe a return to the past. Now, he might not be leading the charge with that, but maybe someone will. Maybe we can take country music back to those roots that were anti establishment and speaking up for the oppressed and the beaten down and all of those groups that country music has always been about.